how long has it been since the last time voters approved a bond issue?
I believe they approved one in 2007, and that was the first phase of this bond issue we're in now. It was a three-phase bond issue at that time, and we had over 73% of the voters approve that concept of a new high school, elementary schools, air conditioning, the whole package. But it was meant to be in three $60 million phases. This was to be the second phase, but what we've done is compress phase 2 and 3 into one, so that we don't have to build the high school in segments, that we'll just build it all at once.
So, I know you just started to mention the high school. What will the money from this bond issue be used for?
Well, there's $120 million. It's a no tax increase bond issue. It's 4/7 majority required. It will build a third comprehensive high school on St. Charles Road. It'll be a 297,000 square feet facility. It will build another elementary school. We're dealing with crowding at both levels, secondary and elementary. It will take care of rooftop construction and renovation. It will add air conditioning and boilers to the schools that need those, and it will continue with our technology development plan.
Will this move raise taxes?
It will not raise taxes. It will extend the debt. I tell people it's much like a home equity loan. If you've paid on your home for 10 years and you want to renovate the kitchen, you can work with the bankers to refinance. Your payments will be the same, but you're able to use the equity in your home to do projects that you need to do to keep your house up to speed.
That said, just so we're clear, am I correct in understanding that not passing this issue would lead to a tax decrease for voters?
It would take several years, about 6 years, for that to actually debt enough to be retired enough that we would actually go backwards, and that's doubtful considering we have 40 buildings that will constantly need to have the voters approve issues to fix and repair and maintain them. But if that did happen in 2016, a person with a $100,000 home might see their taxes drop $38 a year.
You and I spoke last month about the education funding situation in Missouri and in Columbia especially, and at that time we talked a little bit about some of the cuts that have been required for the district and some of the cuts that may be anticipated going forward. In a time of what seems like so much shortage in some regards, is this a time to be building out, to be continuing to expand the district?
Actually, this is the perfect time to do so. This was not the intent of the original phase. We didn't know the economy was going to take such a dive. The economists didn't even know that. But what happens when the economy is in a recession is that the value to loan or to take a loan of money reduces. Right now, we refinanced bonds a month ago at 1.69%. That's almost free money. That's so cheap, and that's how low the interest rates are. That allows you to have more money goes to principal and less to interest. And the big silver lining in this recession is that the bid climate to build a building is so competitive, people are wanting work so much, that we are expecting to get 20 to 25% more building for the dollar. We're using the same construction firm, J.E. Dunn, that the university used. And in the last 3 university projects, they came in 30% below the anticipated value of those projects because the price of electrical and steel and copper have all dropped. And many of the construction subcontractors are actually bidding jobs at just slightly above cost because they just want to keep people working and to keep their company viable until the demand for job grows so that they can then get in and bid a little more with profit in mind. Warrensburg's elementary school just came in 24% below anticipated bid. It's just all over the state. It is the perfect storm with low interest rates on bonds and the bid climate where people being so hungry to have those kind of jobs. So we think we will get a wonderful value for our taxpayers' dollars. It won't cost any more on their tax rate, and we are overcrowded now. If we wait, in 3 years, those 400 to 500 more students we have will simply have to be put in more trailers or shoved in more classrooms that we already have. That's not an alternative we want to deal with. Bond issues are for the future. You don't necessarily let the present determine yes or no. You're looking at the future, and this time the president just happened to be conducive to bond issues, which is about the only silver lining I can find in the recession.
Given the crowding that you mentioned, certainly there's another high school coming in, and you mentioned at the elementary school level also, while new buildings are a part of alleviating that problem, obviously bringing in more staff to make the student-teacher ratio something you want it to be is another part of that. Given the economic situation, what concerns do you have about staffing in those new buildings?
Well, remember that when more students come, we get dollars that follow their attendance. So as more students come, we do get additional revenue to help support those students. And also when students come, a lot of times they're buying a house or paying property tax, so that increases our assessed valuation. So some of that's going to come as a natural process of growth. However, we know that with new utilities and we'd have to have principals and counselors and those kind of things to those buildings. We are planning to grow our budget from 16% reserves to 20% reserves, so a 4% cushion. And that 4% will allow us to open those buildings and operate them for 2 to 3 years should the economy still be weak. But if the economy comes back and the assessed valuation of the community grows, then our revenues grow along with that, and we could do that without a problem. But we're hedging our bets by growing our balances, and should we not have to use that reserve, then we can put that back into salaries and benefits and the other things that we spend our operating cost on.
Will any of the bond issue money be put toward restoring cut programs or avoiding some of the program cuts that have been forecast for the future?
Bond issues can only be used for buildings, technology, those kind of things. We cannot put it into salaries, personnel, or those kind of things, so the answer would be no.
Anything else we haven't touched on yet as far as why people should approve this bond issue?
Well, as I tell people, we have 2 large high schools with only grades 10 through 12. We want to have 3 high schools of about the same size of 1,800 and put our freshmen in with those high schools. Our middle level programs will then become just one program of grades 6 through 8. So students will go through K through 5, then grades 6 through 8, and then to a high school. We think that's a better academic program for our students. It's less transition between buildings for our students, whereas now it's K5, 6, 7, then they go to 8, 9, then 10, 12. We also think that when we open the 3rd high school, we will increase the opportunity for our students at the high school level to participate in drama and music and athletics and the various programs that we offer. The larger the high schools are, the less percentage of kids that can participate in all those activities. And we know that the high school experience is a full experience. It's not just the classroom, it's all the other things that you do with it that make a high school spirit and climate and culture. And we want to get ahead of the game on this. We don't want to wait around until our high school gets so large that we're actually harming students' ability to have that experience that most parents want their children to have.
And I guess my last thing that I just remembered was talking about the original 3-phase project, which has now involved combining phases 2 and 3 in this bond issue. Has there been any looking toward the future already in terms of when that next bond issue will be needed at this point?
Well, we now have a $120 million bond issue, and it will take us about 5 years to spend that money and be able to sell those bonds. But I would say within 2 or 3 years, depending on how quickly we pay off some of our debt, and that depends on the assessed valuation. The next stage will be starting to have a critical look at the elementary program. We'll still have about 100 trailers in our elementary schools. We'll have 19 elementary schools with, an average of, 5 to 7 trailers per elementary school. We will start exploring that opportunity, and probably in 3 to 4 years, we would have the capacity to start asking the voters to consider things to decrease the crowding at the elementary or to convert some of those trailer areas into permanent building renovations.
Any additional thoughts?
No, it's a good deal. I think we think we've sold the idea to the public well. We think 76% of the people voted on it in phase 1, which means they sort of endorsed the concept, and we're just wanting to follow through. And we think for a no tax rate increase, this is a good thing for our educational program.
Well, thank you very much for your time today.
Okay, thank you.